Department of Defense has been sitting on excess border wall materials purchased between 2017 and 2022. Last year, Republican representatives added a section to the Department of Defense's budget that requires the agency to use, donate, or sell the excess materials. Congress required the materials to first go to border states or other federal agencies that are working on border projects aimed at stopping illicit human and vehicle traffic along the border of the United States with Mexico. The DoD estimates that happened to nearly 60% of the excess materials. The rest, which Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick called mostly junk, was sold to the private auction company 𝐺ovPlanet. So, no, the Biden administration is not selling off sections of the border wall.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
A federal judge says the Biden administration must stop selling border wall materials for the next 30 days.
Opinions vary.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Opinions Varied. It's Opinions with an A. Please like, share, and subscribe. And we're going to talk about the selling of the border wall, which has been going on, which everybody who has any common sense knows is ridiculous. Why are we selling off pieces of a border wall that we, the taxpayer, paid for pennies on the dollar? The Biden administration has been doing it basically to stick their thumb in the eye to Trump administration one more time as they transition. Anybody with any common sense also knows that, okay? So we have this report here from News Nation. They're going to talk about how a federal judge has now blocked the Biden administration from selling off any more portions of this border wall. And you saw that report in the beginning that said, oh, it's not true, they weren't. Yes, they were. And in that bill that they read, I'll read it back to you again as we go on. In no way does it say you could sell to a non-government entity any of that wall. So this is underhanded, it's scheming, and it's just more of the unconstitutional, I think, lawlessness of the Biden administration on full display. But since Republicans, for the most part, in Congress are weak, nothing will ever be done about it. And Joe Biden will go and live out the rest of his life without, ever being put in handcuffs, which I believe should happen to him and probably the rest of his family. Maybe Jill should, Jill should be probably locked up for elder abuse, but that's a whole nother story. Without any further ado, let's get into this report from News Nation. Let's go.
Texas court rules the Biden administration must immediately stop selling parts of the landmark border wall from the first Trump administration. A major win for the president-elect's border security agenda, allowing him to use those materials in his second administration. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton celebrated this ruling, saying, quote, "We will hold his administration accountable," that is the Biden administration, "for illegally subverting our nation's border security until the very last day."
Well, I'm glad somebody will, because, Congress, as I said, won't. Joe Biden has been violating Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution since he stepped into office, along with Kamala Harris, along with Alejandro Mayorkas. I've done it in other videos. I will put it up again so you can read what that article in the Constitution says. They are guilty of violating this law, and they've been doing it since day one, and they should be held accountable. They should probably be tried for treason. They have sold out this country intentionally. And as far as this law that was passed by, I guess, the Republican House for funding a couple of years ago, I'm going to read it right now. It says, not later than 75 days after the date of the enactment of this act, the Secretary of Defense shall submit to Congress a plan to use, transfer, or donate to the states on the southern border of the United States all covered materials with prioritization given to the refurbishment and or maintenance of ports of entry along the southwest border and construction projects aimed at stopping illicit human and vehicle traffic along the border of the United States with Mexico. There's nowhere in that law does it say that it could be sold to 𝐺ovPlanet or whatever it's called. It's a private entity to be auctioned off. Okay, so that is violating that law as far as I can read and see. So all that's, again, lies, and we're used to that, aren't we?
Power, end quote. Joining me right now, Republican strategist Bobby Eberle and Democratic strategist Dante Mills. Dante, I'm going to start with you. The president-elect had called the Biden administration selling and auctioning off portions of the wall illegal as well, and says that it has cost taxpayers millions of dollars. They've been doing this since 2023. A very odd decision to make after an executive order finally realizing that the immigration crisis had reached a chaos that no one could personally handle, including the Border Patrol officers. How did
manufactured chaos, intentionally manufactured chaos by the Biden administration?
Does the decision to actually sell off parts of the wall impact Biden's legacy and the perception of Democrats?
It doesn't at all. We know that immigration is an important policy, but
You do?
the plan under current President Joe Biden was not to use those pieces of material. That has nothing to do with the larger scale policy. He was actually trying to be efficient for the American people and save them money. So what he did is there was rusting steel. There was steel that...
I mean, is this guy... Wow. He doesn't really believe what he just said, does he?
wasn't going to be used. It was rusting out. So he allowed that steel to be sold to outside companies in order for it not to go to waste. It has nothing to do with the larger big picture of immigration. I think there's a national belief that we have to tighten the border and take steps we need to make our country safer. But this was just trying to save taxpayers their money.
This is all revisionist history. They had no desire to enforce any immigration laws when Joe Biden took office, and they didn't. And once it blew up in their face with Americans getting murdered, raped, burned alive, all the other things happening all over the country, then they had to take a stand because they realized it was tanking any of their chances of getting reelected. And basically it did cost them taking back the House. It cost them the presidency, and it cost them the Senate. But now this is all revisionist history. Oh, we believe in this. No, they don't. Day one, you'll see when Trump comes in and tries to enforce some of these things, reconstructing the wall, doing it with the sanctuary cities, which they're going to get into in a minute, he's going to meet resistance, and the people that resist him need to be arrested.
I have to have Bobby's take on this because I think that that's a very reasonable answer. And a lot of people at home are saying, yeah, that makes total sense. It's rusting walls. We need to get rid of things that don't make sense, that don't work. But had those portions of the wall been used, we might not be where we are today. So, Bobby, what's your take on this?
Bingo.
Well, right. There was a hostility from day one from the Biden administration and an overt plan to open the border. I mean, we heard over and over again that this was just seasonal. There's no border crisis, on and on and on. They stopped producing and building the wall. And this is just kind of the Biden administration's attempt to, stick a thumb in the eye of the Trump administration.
That's what I said.
Just like they were doing with some of these pardons, just like they were doing with last minute debt relief on loans, but they
all been overturned by the courts, by the way. All unconstitutional, been overturned by the courts. But Donald Trump's the criminal.
Stop that. A lot of maneuvers at the end that I think, to answer your question, will tarnish his legacy. This is just another maneuver because the American people understood that the Biden administration was not serious about illegal immigrations. That's why it was one of the top issues going into the election and in exit polling as well.
Correct.
The Democrats failed miserably on this issue. And this is just Biden's last attempt to try and subvert Trump in some way before he comes into power, before he really gets serious on border security.
And no matter what party it is, I just beg people to go online, Google Biden must use funds earmarked for the construction of the border wall from October of 2023. And he doesn't believe the barriers work, which would explain why the administration would auction off the wall.
Yeah, they don't work except when they put them around the White House and the Capitol and everything else. That's when the barriers work, right? Or around their houses.
But he also says he has to use the funding to help build the wall because that's what the money was decided to be used for back in 2019. But somehow that all gets lost in the political discussions of all this. I digress. We know several Democratic leaders, they've been saying they will defy the deportation measures by President Trump. The LA Times reporting now, Stephen Miller, the incoming president's senior advisor, he now is messaging these different leaders through his nonprofit America First Legal with a warning saying if you don't comply with these orders, basically you're in breach of federal law. California's leadership, including the state's attorney general, the mayor of Los Angeles, calling this a scare tactic.
It's not a scare tactic, and you are violating federal law. The sanctuary cities are illegal. How does a city get to violate federal law? In this case, overrides state law when it comes to naturalization and immigration. Always has, always will. They're breaking the law, and these governors, attorney generals, whoever else gets in the way of deportations or turning people over to ICE needs to be put in handcuffs. Examples need to be made, and they need to be made quickly.
Dante, how do you make sense of what's happening there?
I think it's a scare tactic. I mean, I think everything, and we hear
FAFO, as they say. Let's see what happens.
About sanctuary cities, and you can have a disbelief on whether or not there should be a sanctuary city, but they're being handled in a legal manner. So as long as they're being handled legally.
Nothing illegal can be handled legally. That those two things don't go together. But like every other progressive statement, they want two contradicting thoughts in the same sentence, and they want you to hold both as truth.
And they're following the law, they shouldn't be threatened. And the threat is we're going to withhold federal funding. We're not going to allow your state to get money that they're entitled to because
you're entitled to nothing.
you don't go or believe in our plan. That's not how the government should work. Everybody should follow the legal path, and if sanctuary cities are approved and can be sanctioned and approved legally, they have the right to do that. And you can't come in and say, we're going to keep money from your state unless you get on board with us. That's just not how it should be handled.
Talk to Barack Obama about that. I believe it was in Arizona when the law was passed there about how cops can pull over somebody, an illegal alien, or it was something along those lines. It was during the Obama administration. And what did he do? Threaten to withhold federal funds.
But is it about not getting on board, or is it about standing in the way, Bobby?
Right. Well, that's the thing, is that one of these things that you've seen in sanctuary cities over and over again is their refusal to participate with ICE or CBP for them to do their job. We're not asking state and local officials to do something that's outside their mandate. We're just asking them to, if you see illegal activity, if you know there's illegals there, then contact the ICE or CBP.
It ends there. Yeah, they're asking them to follow the law. That's all they're doing. They're asking if these states follow the law. The Democrats are famous for, we'll withhold funds. You don't want to teach what the Board of Education wants in the curriculum? We'll withhold your funds for your schools. They do it all the time. All the time. But when, Donald Trump says he's going to do it when these people want to blatantly violate the law, we're going to withhold funds. Oh, you can't do that. It's not the way it's supposed to work. No. It is the way it's supposed to work. See? Now, in this case, these states are violating federal law. So if you want to violate federal law, you should have your funds withheld, and the person ordering those laws to be not followed should be arrested. And I honestly, Tom Homan says he will put these people in handcuffs. A lot of people saying Brandon Johnson might be number one. He might be the first to go. Set an example. You better do it, or else I'll call you out. I will. That's how I am. That's how I'm going to be in this channel. If I see them not living up to what they said they were going to do, I will call them out. I'm done with it. I'm done with the nonsense. I'm done with the softness. I'm done with this flaky Republican Party. It's over. If the new party is here, let's act like it. Let's act like it. Let's get this country back. So you guys tell me what you think in the comments. And again, don't buy into the nonsense that Biden wasn't selling the wall. He was. And he had no right to sell it under this law that I just read you. He had no right to sell it to a private entity to then auction off. If there was 40% of it left, that's up for the government and Donald Trump coming in as the incoming president to decide what he wants to do with that wall that you just let sit there and rot because you didn't feel like building it because you didn't want to stop anybody at the border. No, this is all nonsense, all lies. Once again, Joe Biden is mad. His legacy is garbage. Now he's saying I would have won if I would. I'm mad that I dropped out because I could have beaten Trump. All delusion. We know that, but he's pissed. And all he's doing on the way out with these ridiculous pardons, these ridiculous commutations of these death sentences, is just trying to piss everybody off because he doesn't care anymore. He knows his legacy is shot. He's going to go down as one of the worst, if not the worst president of all time. So there's that. Tell me what you think in the comments. I appreciate you watching. Follow me on X. Follow me on TikTok at Apinions Vary. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you made it this far, please like, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate that too. We'll see you next time right here at Apinions Vary.
Opinions vary.